allow us to recognize and celebrate the presence of our dignitaries here in the room, our partners, our guests, who have honored this society with their time today. Your presence, of course, today is a testament that scholarship still matters, that ideas still count, and that dialogue still drives development.
We are here this morning on the 66th annual conference for gathering of eggheads, professors. We have at least more than 100 of them here in our midst, and it's going to be a robust discussion. The bottom line is for all of us to take our positions and ensure that if there is a left, there's always a right.
Thank you very much. Now let's begin our recognition, and as we recognize, I would like us to give a very warm round of applause as I call and the names of the special guests in our midst. Of course, we'll begin by recognizing and warmly welcoming His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you, sir, for gracing us with your presence. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD, represented by Honorable Boyega Nasiru Isiaka, Chairman, House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. The chairman of this event, Dr. Samsudeen Usman, OFR, FNES, former Minister of Finance and National Planning. Good morning, sir, and welcome. Honorable Ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, CON. Honorable Minister of Livestock Development, Alhaji Idi Mukhtar Maha. Good morning, sir, and welcome. The Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, represented here by Dr. Mohammed Sani Abdullahi, Deputy Governor, Economic Policy. For emphasis, Dr. Mohammed Sani Abdullahi, we need to say, he just became a doctor just a few days ago. And the little bird just told me, so we need to congratulate him for that. Special advisors to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria here are present. We also have chairmen of federal commissions and corporations here present. We have the chairman of Federal Civil Service Commission here, Professor Tsuji Olokpa. Good morning, sir, and welcome. The chairman of today's event is also the chairman of MOFI. So that is the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, Dr. Samsudeen Usman. Welcome again, sir. We also have Director Generals and Chief Executive Officers of government ministries, departments, and agencies here present. Welcome. State Commissioners here present of Finance, of Economic Planning, of Budgets of various states. You're welcome, SARS. Dr. Eric Oguleye, Director, African Development Institute. Good morning, sir, and welcome. Professor Adiola Denikinju, our host, President of the Nigerian Economic Society. Good morning, and please give him a round of applause. The 44th President of the NES. Captains of industries here present, past presidents of the Nigerian Economic Society, fellows of the Nigerian Economic Society, council members of the Nigerian Economic Society, members of the Nigerian Economic Society, and of course, like he mentioned, so many professors here in our midst, and I would not even be intimidated at all. I won't be intimidated at all with the professors of economics here and allied disciplines, representatives of civil society organizations here, and a very, a very great group that we also have in our midst. The students, please give them a round of applause. The leaders of tomorrow. And I also want to especially recognize members of the African Development Institute here in our midst. They came from different parts of Africa for this conference. Please, a round of applause. And can you wave? Thank you very much for coming. Distinguished members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome again.
Thank you very much. We want to welcome you all together. Please give yourselves a big round of applause. The whole event would begin with a key personality who will set the stage. But I have Nancy to do some little talk with him. Don't worry, we'll be chatting right here, and I hope and I pray that we all go together.
All right, Excellencies, distinguished guests, eminent scholars, because this is a room filled with diverse people, captains of industry, like I mentioned earlier on, policymakers, students, and friends of the Nigerian Economic Society. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to this historic gathering, the 66th Annual Conference of the Nigerian Economic Society. I thought I would hear a round of applause, a resounding one, with the theme, Rethinking Africa's Development. I am Nancy Naji. We should not forget to introduce ourselves.
Yeah, we almost did. My name is Yusuf Aliyu Adi.
And I'm Nancy Naji, like I mentioned earlier on, and I'm the executive producer and anchor of Moneyline with Nancy on AIT. And it is my honor to serve as one of your MCs today.
Yeah, she's doing that. And I'm a retired director in the Federal Civil Service. I look tired, but I don't think I am tired. So I run my personal show. Today, I wake up at my time. I do what I want to do, and I think that's very good. Fantastic. I want to encourage those who are getting close to retirement, believe in yourselves, and the sky will be the limit.
Fantastic. And since we're talking about evolution, because he's just talking about how he's, revolutionizing, the evolution of the Nigerian Economic Society, 66 years, I must say, 66 years of thought leadership, 66 years of interrogating ideas, shaping policies and influencing Nigeria's economic destiny. That is not just longevity, Your Excellencies, it is legacy. And today, we continue in that proud tradition. And I will say this Yoruba proverb. It says, Ogbon ju agbára lọ. And let me translate. It means wisdom is greater than strength. Here today, we gather not to flex our muscles, but to flex our minds. And that's what we'll be doing all through for the next few days, because it is with wisdom, not with brute force, that nations are built. Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President, I had the singular honor of standing before this August gathering last year as the MC too, and as we mark the 65th annual conference, a landmark edition that celebrated decades of research and dialogue. And now we are here, 1 year wiser, 1 year deeper in collective pursuit of economic solutions for Nigeria. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is not just another conference because, a lot of people say, we always gather to talk. Talk is cheap. We're always gathering. But this is not just another conference. It's a marketplace of ideas. It is a parliament of economists, the melting point where scholarship meets policy and where data becomes destiny. The Nigerian Economic Society for 66 years has been there, from Nigeria's independence, in the 60s, to the oil booms of the 70s. I thought we'll be giving NES a round of applause. It's been a while. To the structural adjustment programs of the 80s, from the debt relief struggles of the 2000s, to the digital disruptions that we're hearing now, and regional trade that is ongoing now. NES has always been there, asking the tough questions and also looking for answers. And so today again we gather. But let us remember that this conference is not just about charts, it's not about numbers, it's about the farmer in Makurdi, it is about the entrepreneur in Aba. Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President, it's about the trader in Kano. It's about the tech innovator in Yaba and the students in Nsukka, all waiting for ideas. Thank you. All waiting for ideas born here to become policies felt out there. What else again?
A lot has been said, but the bottom line is we're here to put our heads together to ensure that we give Nigeria the best pathway towards growth and development. Pretty happy that our students are here and they're taking notes. And we also should be mindful that they're here with us so that we don't leave a legacy that is not worthwhile. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we should commence the program. Maybe we could, just before we start, we say a little bit about Professor Adeola.
Yes. Your Excellency, the Vice President, to formally welcome us, because it's not our job to welcome us. It is my honor, of course, to invite a man whose life work embodies the very essence of this society, whose leadership continues to strengthen the society and amplify its voice in the nation's economic discourse. He has carried the mantle of leadership, Your Excellency, with dignity, with vision, and scholarship, as well as humility, yes. Please, with a resounding round of applause, a round of applause that is not economic, yes, but that is rich. Yes. Not economic in stature, but rich. Let us welcome a teacher of teachers, the 44th President of the Nigerian Economic Society, Professor Adeola Adenikinju, for his welcome address.
Thank you so very much, Nancy. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, the Chairman of the occasion, the representative of the Speaker of the House of Reps, Honorable Ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Governor of the Central Bank, I would like to stand on the existing protocol. It is with immense pleasure and profound gratitude that I stand before you today as the 44th President of the Nigerian Economic Society to extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you at our 66th annual conference that is taking place at our nation's capital. This gathering marks a historic milestone in the annals of our society, as it is the largest conference we have ever held. This conference draws over 2,000 delegates, including 500 students across Nigerian universities. Your presence here underscores the enduring advance of the NES as a beacon of intellectual rigor and policy innovation in Nigeria's economic landscape. I'm especially honored to recognize the esteemed personalities present on this occasion. We are deeply grateful to His Excellency, the Vice President. Thank you so very much, sir. You promised to come to support us, and you are here. We are grateful, sir. We are very grateful, sir. We also owe a great debt of gratitude to the honorable ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that are present here today, the Governor of the Central Bank, and our indefatigable chairman, Dr. Usman. Thank you very much, sir. Your leadership and dedication to Nigeria's economic progress are a collective inspiration to all of us. The theme of this year's conference, Rethinking Africa's Development Pathways to Economic Transformation and Social Inclusion in a Changing Global Economic Landscape, could not be more timely. At a moment when Africa faces daunting challenges and unique opportunities in the global economy, this conference provides a platform for robust intellectual engagement, practical policy dialogue, and evidence-based recommendations that can guide Nigeria and other African countries in leading us towards a wider shared prosperity. Let me just say a little thing about the Nigerian Economic Society. The NES was founded in 1957 as a foremost professional body of economists in Nigeria. For nearly 7 decades, this society has served as the intellectual hub of the Nigerian economies, bringing together academics, policymakers, development practitioners, business leaders, and students with a shared commitment to advancing knowledge and shaping economic policy. Since its earliest days, the NES has been at the forefront of national economic debates, providing vital research, fostering dialogue, and shaping economic reforms. Over the years, the society has consistently engaged with governments, international development partners, and the private sector on issues ranging from macroeconomic management, fiscal and monetary policy, and industrialization to poverty alleviation, human capital development, and Nigeria's role in the global economy. The annual conference of the NES has become the largest and most respected economic policy gatherings in Nigeria, renowned for managing academic rigor with practical relevance. It serves as a platform where evidence-based research integrates with real-world policymaking, and where the voices of established scholars combine with the fresh perspectives of young economists. Today, the NES acts as a bridge between research and policy, a center for mentoring the next generation of economists, and a trusted partner in Nigeria's pursuit of sustainable development and Africa's transformation. But, sir, to take a moment to reflect on the journey of our society over the last 2 years. Since assuming office as president, we have worked together with our council to reposition the Nigerian Economic Society as the leading voice in Nigeria's economic policy discourse. Among the landmark reforms and achievements in the last 2 years include establishment of 36 state chapters and FCT and in diaspora to ensure national outreach and grassroots engagements. We have challenged our state chapters to engage the state governors, to engage the state governments, in also economic discussions and economic policy making. So that the focus is not just on the federal level, that even at the state level, we can begin to have some robust discussions and engagement with, with the states. We have also created the NES Women's Wing and the Students' Wing, broadening inclusivity and representation. We have seen unprecedented growth in new membership, which has helped us to expand the vibrancy and intellectual diversity of the society. We've signed memoranda of understanding with local and international organizations, including the NESG, to deepen our collaborations and visibility. We have also regularly published an annual economic report to show the economist perspective about developments in the economy and to also speak about the outlook of the Nigerian economy. We've launched digital innovations, including the NES mobile app, the NES Connect, the revamping of our websites and social media platforms, and the NES podcast, known as the Economic Jigsaw. We've re-engaged with stakeholders in both the public and private sectors to enhance our policy relevance. And we have started construction on our permanent secretariat that has laid fallow for over 20 years. And just as we've seen, we have produced also the NES anthem. These reforms have transformed the society into a modern, inclusive, and globally connected professional body, while preserving our core identity as Nigeria's foremost economic think tank. This year's conference reflects the scale of our ambition. In the next 3 days, more than 300 scholarly papers will be presented across plenary and technical sessions, covering full spectrum of Nigeria's and Africa's economic development. These sessions promise to foster scholarly debates, innovative solutions, and collaborative pathways towards sustainable development. We are confident the output of this conference will not only enrich the discipline of economics, but also make a significant contribution to national policy discourse. Acknowledgements. We owe the success of the conference to the support and commitment of many. I want to especially acknowledge our distinguished sponsors and partners whose generosity has made the gathering possible. Our keynote speakers and panelists this year will be the Nobel laureate, one of the Nobel laureates in economics in 2024 will be speaking at this conference later. Our students and young scholars, the LOCs and the various committees, and more importantly, Your Excellency, the Vice President, for graciously agreeing to declare this conference open. Before I conclude the speech today, I would like to appeal to the Vice President and urge that the government should engage more with the Nigerian Economic Society. We are the experts of the Nigerian economy. We appeal to the Tinubu government to reinstate the president of the Nigerian Economic Society as a member of the economic management team. as was the case under President Yar'Adua and President Goodluck Jonathan. We believe we can make a significant contribution to the ongoing economic reforms. We recognize that the reforms of the past 2 years have stabilized our economy and repositioned it for sustainable growth. However, these reforms must be complemented by adequate social investments and measures to shield the economy from deindustrialization and increased dependence on food imports. Additionally, we request that the key ministries, such as finance, budget and national planning, and trade, industry, trade, and investment, be designated as economic ministries with their leadership teams composed of individuals with sound economic training. As I draw this reflection to a close, sir, let us pause to consider that Africa's development has long been framed through the images of not our choosing. Too often, the continent is depicted in the language of deficit, malnourished children in classrooms without roofs, farmers battling cracked soil under relentless drought, tired women standing in long queues for relief materials in other developed villages. These portrayals, endlessly recycled, are not merely pictures. They shape the assumptions of investors, the priorities of aid, and even the policy prescriptions offered to us. They confine Africa to the role of a problem to be managed rather than a partner in shaping the global future. But that is not true. That is not the true African story. Across the continent, we also see young entrepreneurs building digital platforms that connect millions, farmers adopting climate-smart methods that improve yields, and cities experimenting with renewable energy and sustainable housing. This is the Africa of possibility, an Africa that requires policies not of relief, but of reinvention, not of dependency, but of partnership. This Africa really makes the headlines, but it is the Africa that demands a new policy imagination, on the ones that also sees beyond crisis, response to long-term transformation, beyond dependency frameworks to agency and collaboration. In this spirit, we thought of the wisdom of Chinua Achebe, the renowned Nigerian novelist and prophetic voice, when he said, if you don't like someone's story, write your own. This is precisely what our team is all about. It's a high time that we reject the narratives of lack imposed on us to craft our own path and to chart the story of economic transformation led by African takers and doers. Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, friends, and partners, the Nigerian Economic Society is stronger, more vibrant, and more relevant today than ever before. Together, let us seize this moment to rethink, reshape, and reimage the African's economic future. On behalf of the Governing Council of the Nigerian Economic Society, I warmly welcome you once again and wish us fruitful deliberations. Thank you. God bless the Nigerian Economic Society, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. The president of the Nigerian Economic Society has set the stage, and we move nicely as we move along the program for this morning. The next person is the one that's going to be talking about the Learning and Capacity Development Institution focused on the African Development Bank. This is an institute that helps to research and work towards how African communities and African governments can walk through its economic development and get models that are better for our society. And it's definitely in line with the theme of this year's Rethinking Africa's Development. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, Mr. Vice President, we want to welcome, for the opening remarks, Dr. Eric Okunleye, Director of the Institute. Please can we give him a big round of applause as he comes forward. Thank you very much.
It is indeed challenging to speak where your professors who graded your paper at the undergraduate and graduate school are in the room. And we have many of them here. I just want to appeal to you to say, please give me a pass mark at the end of these remarks. So it is indeed my honor and privilege to deliver this goodwill message at this 66th annual conference of the Nigerian Economic Society, an institution that has remained a beacon of intellectual excellence and policy relevance in Nigeria and across Africa. And permit me to start by saying I want to really appreciate His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, all the ministers here present, as well as all the professors and all colleagues who are here in the room. I want to say, please permit me to stand on established protocol. So once again, I really appreciate the privilege of being here and to work with the Nigerian Economic Society in planning and implementing this very important conference. Let me also extend to you the warm greetings of the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Sidi Ould Tah, and also the Chief Economist and Vice President of the bank, Professor Kevin Urama. They asked me to send their warm greetings to this conference. Let me also extend my very high gratitude to the government of Nigeria for supporting this event in this very beautiful city of Abuja, especially with the presence of His Excellency, the Vice President. I also express our profound appreciation to the Nigerian Economic Society for inviting the African Development Bank, particularly the African Development Institute, to co-host this very important conference. The African Development Bank is committed to the economic development of Africa, especially that of Nigeria. And the reason is because Nigeria occupies a strategic position in moving Africa forward. So we are very committed, and we realize that Nigeria can do a lot in moving the continent forward. And so we commend the government of Nigeria for the very bold reforms that they have been undertaking with a view to achieving this laudable objective. We're proud to co-host this milestone conference, which brings together some of the finest and brightest minds to reflect on Africa's development trajectory in a rapidly evolving global economic landscape. The theme of this year's conference, Rethinking Africa's Development, Pathways to Economic Transformation and Social Inclusion, is not only timely, but compelling. It speaks to the urgent need for Africa to re-strategize in the face of multiple global disruptions that include climate change, geopolitical tensions, technological shifts, debt sustainability and vulnerabilities, and demographic transitions. This theme challenges us to move beyond the growth metrics and embrace inclusive transformation, one that uplifts the poor, that empowers the women and youth, and builds resilient institutions. This is what the African Development Bank is known for. Not just a hard infrastructure financing institution, but an institution that is responsible for building soft infrastructure in form of knowledge, in form of capacity, because we recognize that these are enablers of transformation. Some of the tools that we have developed at the African Development Bank to help achieve this objective include the strategic framework on key actions to achieve inclusive growth and sustainable development in Africa. We also recently developed the Public Service Delivery Index that helped to measure the progress that countries are making when it comes to the government's ability to provide the services that they need. We also have a number of academies: Public Financial Management Academy, Macroeconomic Policy Management Academy, and several other tools to assist countries, including Nigeria, to achieve structural and economic transformation. I want to appeal to all of us that these tools are at your disposal at no cost. We invite you to visit our knowledge and capacity development booth right out there when you have the time to familiarize yourself with some of these tools that will really help you in your day-to-day endeavor to achieve structural transformation and inclusive growth in our continent. And on the last day of this conference, you are also invited to a special policy dialogue session on the theme, Driving Africa's Economic Transformation in Transition States, the Role of Capacity Development and Knowledge Management. Participants from 22 African countries were invited to participate in this dialogue, and they are all here. So we look forward to your participation in this very important policy dialogue. So as we rethink Africa's development together, we need to be bold. We also need to be visionary. So let us rethink how we invest in people, because these are the people, the women, the youth who represent the greatest assets of the continent. Let us rethink how we strengthen institutions, because transformation is impossible without capable and accountable governance. Let us rethink how we harness technology and innovation to leapfrog development constraints. Let us rethink how we promote regional integration to unlock economies of scale. And finally, let us rethink how we ensure social inclusion so that no one is left behind. The African Development Bank stands ready to work with all stakeholders, governments, academia, civil society, and the private sector, to co-create society and to also ensure that we develop solutions that are African-owned, that are evidence-based, and that are future-proof. So once again, I commend the Nigerian Economic Society for its enduring commitment to advancing economic thought and policy in Nigeria and in Africa. Let us seize this moment and this opportunity to chart a new course for Africa, a course that is inclusive, a course that is resilient, and a course that is prosperous. So once again, I wish all of us a successful conference, and thank you once again for your kind attention.
Please, another round of applause for Dr. Eric Ogulaye. And just before we go ahead, please, can we warmly welcome and recognize the representative of the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mrs. Sonia Adeokoli. She's the Special Advisor to the President on Finance and the Economy. Please, a round of applause for her. And also the Special Advisor to the President on Economic Affairs in the Office of the Vice President, Dr. Tokpe Fashua. You're welcome, Doctor. And I just need to quickly make this clarification that for our next speakers, because the VP is pressed for so much time, he has honored us, and he needs to leave anytime soon. So our next speakers should, speak for a minute so that our VP can actually grace other occasions. Our next speaker is celebrated as Nigeria's first professor of capital markets, of course, a pioneer in a field that connects academic thought to financial practice, a former commissioner of finance in Imo State. Today, he leads the capital market academics of Nigeria as president, driving research and advocacy that strengthen our financial system. He's a mentor to Waleke for his remarks.
Thank you, Nancy. I have just a minute. Your Excellency the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, FCMA, fellow Capital Market Academics of Nigeria. That's the meaning of FCMA. Let me also stand on existing protocol. But before then, permit me to also recognize another fellow of the capital markets here, the Minister for Budget, Dr. Atiku Abubakar. It's indeed a great honor for me as President of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria to deliver this goodwill message at the 66th Annual Conference of the Nigerian Economic Society. Let me begin by commending the leadership of NES for sustaining this tradition of intellectual engagement and for creating a theme that speaks so directly to the challenges and opportunities, providing actionable insights. The NES has over the years played a critical role in shaping national policy debates, and I'm confident that the recommendations emerging from this gathering will continue to contribute meaningfully to Nigeria's ongoing reform efforts and to Africa's place in the global development agenda. On behalf of Capital Market Academics of Nigeria, I congratulate the NES for convening this annual conference, and we extend our goodwill, our solidarity, and our commitment to knowledge sharing for the advancement of Nigeria and Africa. I thank you all for your kind attention. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I think he kept to time, isn't it? Yes. Telling us truly that he's a teacher. And just as we proceed with the items on the agenda, please, with another round of applause, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, like they say, of course, every great gathering needs a steady hand at the helm. As chairman, of course, whose experience, wisdom, and presence lends weight to the occasion. Our next speaker is a technocrat par excellence, respected, of course, in the boardrooms of the private sector, the classrooms, and policy corridors of government. He's been a former minister, but Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to invite to the podium the chairman of the 66th Annual Conference of the Nigerian Economic Society, Dr. Samsudeen Usman, CON, FNES, Fellow of the Nigerian Economic Society. Please encourage him more with a resounding round of applause.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, Honorable Speaker, represented, Honorable Ministers here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I was the substantive chairman yesterday. I'm the impromptu one today. Yesterday, I had my phone to save me. Today, I think the MC has given me an excuse, which is there is not enough time, so I don't have to say anything at all. I was going to actually identify three things that I think the VP and the other top policymakers here need to hear, but since I know I can always, okay, the VP is encouraging me to address those issues, especially they arose from yesterday. Now, one of them was the issue of the state of the Nigerian economy itself currently, and the role that economists can play to help to address that. So I think one of the points I made in my contribution yesterday is, yes, the Nigerian economy is going through quite a number of challenges. We have been having them for years. There are attempts to address them with varying degrees of success. But how relevant can economists be in helping to address these issues? And I think that's the big question. I remember the days of the super pump sex, in the early days of the Nigerian Economic Society, in the 60s and 70s. No serious economic policy was undertaken in this country at that time without the input of the Nigerian Economic Society. So it's both an appeal, and I think the presence of the Vice President here, the Governor of the CBN, the Speaker of the House, should encourage us to say that at least those who matter are listening. But it is for us also as economists Because while our economy is going through some challenges, the economics profession itself is going through some challenges. And we have to make ourselves much more relevant. And I gave the example yesterday of when I was appointed Minister of Finance, and I went to the National Assembly with a general equilibrium model of the Nigerian economy, trying to explain to them the implications of doing this on the budget and those. And they were just looking at me, they said, this man is speaking grammar. You know, so how do we make ourselves more relevant? And the answer is to get back to those days when town and gown met and became relevant to Nigeria's economy. Many of those super PAMSECs, about 3 or 4 of them, ended up becoming actually presidents of the Nigerian Economic Society. You know, Philip Asiodu is the only living one among them today. He was one of the super PAMSECs, and he was a president of the Nigerian Economic Society. And people like Professor Phillips, Dr. Phillips, who actually were shuttling between the university and public service. And my experience as well, I was a teacher in the university. I've taught in several other universities part-time, but I found myself again in the private sector, in the public sector. And the difference is so clear. So I think what we are appealing is we need to institutionalize some arrangement whereby there is this feedback or interlocking between the academics and the public sector. And I'm sure, Your Excellency, you can, your office will probably arrange that. Somebody also raised the question yesterday, why are not certain, and our president repeated it today, the president of the Nigerian Economic Society, why can't certain ministries or agencies in government be reserved for economists? Like you have the lawyers, you know, like the accountants. Well, again, for me, it's really, first of all, you can see, I can confirm to you that our vice president is an economist, the minister of budget economic planning is an economist, Dr. Tokwe Kwashua is in government. There are several economists, the deputy governor and the CBN. So there are economists. I think the challenge really is how do we institutionalize that arrangement as well? When I was setting up the performance management department in national planning as Minister of National Planning, I recruited 25 M&E experts from the private sector. You know, first-class people who are all working for the World Bank and other agencies. Today, where are they? There are just a few of them remaining, partly because of the structure of the civil service, you know? So again, how do we address that? And the last, sorry, again, I took opportunity of sitting next to the chairman of the House Committee on National Planning to raise an issue again that is of great concern to Nigeria, which is why do we keep flip-flopping from one policy to another, and we don't have, like the Chinese, like the Indians, like the Malaysians, and so on, a plan that is institutionalized, that everybody accepts, and all happens is one government comes, modifies it, but it is the same plan. We have tried Vision 2010. I was part of the Vision 2010 effort. I led the effort to institutional Vision 2020. Now we have Vision, the 50-year plan. But I was reminding the representative of the speaker that I tried to even get that, you know, a law to be passed. We need that to say this is the Nigerian plan that every government must implement until we arrive at, you know, the destination that we are targeting for ourselves. Unfortunately, it was not approved, and I'm maybe taking advantage of the Honorable Minister here. We need, and luckily you are a senator, a former senator, we need to legislate those plans. My effort failed, I was not successful, and part of the reason was that they said I was from a, what is the expression that they use? An agency that doesn't have resources. I'm sure you all know what that means. Of course, even if I didn't have the resources, I was not going to use them in the way that people thought I should. But I didn't have the resources to push that piece of legislation, you know. But certainly Nigeria needs some form of, you know, an agreement, and a plan that every government must adhere to. Of course, you know, if it's a 20-year plan, you need to have 5-year amendments or adjustments as you go along. So I just thought I should make those 3 comments on an impromptu basis. But formally, to welcome the Vice President and thank you for the support that you have been given to the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Please, another round of applause for him. And like I mentioned earlier on, that His Excellency, the Vice President, is really pressed for time. He needs to be out of here in the next few minutes, and because of that, we are taking a lot of things very briskly. Our next speaker is the one handling a very important portfolio, and that portfolio is livestock. Livestock, of course, is not just meat and milk. It's employment, it's trade, it's food security. Our next speaker oversees a sector brimming with potential for growth, innovation, and exports. Please welcome the Honorable Minister of Livestock Development, Mr. Idi Mukhtar Maha, for his remarks. Please, a round of applause for him.
Your Excellency, the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellencies, I stand here to recognize, respectively, with all sense of humility, everyone who is here now. Thank you very much for giving me 1 minute. If a room is filled up with a lot of professors, you do not draw out your sword. You will have 1,000 swords being wielded to deal with you. So I take solace in the fact that my mentor and boss, Mr. Vice President, is pressed for time. I'm not going to go through this speech, but let me congratulate the Nigerian Economic Society for 66th birthday. Quite interesting, much older than the country. And have been a student of the society for a very, very long time, since my undergraduate days. And hardly a proceeding of this nature is done without you getting some of these very, very articulate and seminal presentations from erudite scholars and professors. Thank you very much. The Minister of Livestock Development is the youngest in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And interestingly, it has not been created in the last 64 years until last year, when Mr. President had that strategic vision to create that ministry at the federal level. For 64 years, we have neglected, deliberately abandoned the livestock sector that has the base value of $32 billion. That society has been there. I don't know whether a lot of advocacy have been done to recognize that sector that has been in the informal sector for that long. It has huge potentials, can probably rival any sector of the economy you can think about if properly harnessed. I'm not going to bore you with a lot of talks. What we neglected was 58 million cattle, 124 million goats, 70 million sheep, 9.3 million pigs, 410,000 donkeys, 900,000 camels. These are the sources of our animal-based protein. Because of that neglect, today we spend $1.5 billion to import dairy and dairy products for 230 million Nigerians, and that is not even sufficient. Today, that sector has been unlocked, it's been unbundled, and we are here under the renewable agenda to transform that sector into a modern, vibrant, resilient, sustainable, and globally competitive sector. As of today, we have a potential to export $3.1 billion red meat to the Gulf states, and we are not anywhere near there. So the challenge here today is that we need brilliant ideas from this conference. How do we turn around this sector immediately for the benefit of Nigerians? Millions of Nigerians have been employed. Our animals are stunted because of lack of feed and fodder. Our countryside is riddled with a lot of crises, farmers, herders, community clashes, simply because we have failed in the last 64 years to transform that sector, to recognize the value of this sector. So we are here out looking for sustainable ideas, implementable ideas, practical ideas to connect the gown and the countryside to transform that sector for the benefit of this country and generations yet unborn. Remember, Nigeria Economic Society, our future is not in our hands. The future of this country is not in our hands. The future of Nigeria is in our land. How do we sweat it out? How do we turn all these potentials into realities? So that is the message, and here we are ready to partner, to listen, to dialogue, to talk to all these brilliant ideas and make sure that we have the opportunity to implement these transformative efforts of Mr. President by creating this ministry. I want to congratulate the Economic Society of Nigeria for convening this wonderful conference to talk about inclusion, transformation, and the development of the African country. The livestock sector today, I want to tell you, is the next crude oil after the crude oil. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, can we give him another big round of applause? He has reeled out a lot of figures, a lot of numbers, and I'm very sure that his paper will be presented to the eggheads in the Nigerian Economic Society. Thank you very much. On this note, we want to welcome to the table the Honorable Minister for Budget and Economic Planning, His Excellency Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, CON. Thank you.
I was praying that he wouldn't remind me it's 1 minute. So thank you for Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic, Senator Kashim Shettima, happy birthday and congratulations that the National Nigerian Economic Society presented you with a birthday gift, rightly and richly deserved, because of the role you have been playing, particularly in the last 2 years, using your formidable capacity as an economist and your experience in public life to support the transformation which is being led by Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. The chairman of the occasion, the president, my colleagues, distinguished participants, good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, because of the impromptu remarks by I won't call him impromptu chairman, but the chairman for today, and with your permission, I would like to respond to 2 of them quickly, because maybe they can be helpful here. First, by mandate, the ministry has the responsibility and has been engaging with the Nigerian Economic Society. And we have even urged them that really we want more hands. We are in a heavy lifting phase, and we want the maximum support. So we are able, I'm not preempting what His Excellency the Vice President will say, but we are available. We even thought, yesterday I called the Director Macro and said, it doesn't look like the Nigerian Economic Society is treating us as partners, because I believe this is a joint program. So the government is ready, and by mandate we have been instructed, and we have been doing that. Secondly, our legislating our national planning, we already have the necessary minimum, because Chapter 2 of our Constitution, Fundamental Objective and Directive Principle of State, literally made three major provisions that we are a constitutional market economy, we are a constitutional democracy, we are a constitutional federalism. And the objectives and directive principle of state contain the objectives, economic objectives for the nation, political objectives, environmental objectives, even the duties of citizens. Even the Section 16 specifically made mention of planning for a balanced economic growth. So maybe taking that constitutional provision, what many people particularly have been saying is that the chapter is not justiciable, which I thought is a red herring, because once the president or vice president or governor or deputy, or indeed all of us public officers that are appointed by them, once you swear to something, I think it's even morally wrong to take the argument that it is not justiciable, because the oath of office, which is in the Constitution, actually necessitates that you swear to uphold and seek the enforcement of the fundamental objectives and directive principles, which are the foundation of our planning. And last but not the least on that, the government, particularly the Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led government, have been very careful not to continue with the old practice of discarding what is there. The 2050 perspective plan, Agenda 50, is still what we have for the country. The 2021 to 2025 national development, which is the first of the 5-year plans, is expiring this year. And Mr. President and the National Economic Council have approved activities to ensure that we put in place the successor plan, which is 2026 to 2030, which certainly the Nigeria Economic Society is going to be part and parcel of. Equally, but of course, it will incorporate the priority areas of the renewed hope agenda. And so we are welcome to support us. We will send out letters to you and to all. But back to my 1 minute, Your Excellency. This is a very important, and especially where we are, as have already been said, in our economic journey. And we need the gown to retool so that they can support us. Just about 10 days ago, we were in Japan for the Tokyo International Conference on African Development. And just sitting there, one cannot help notice that Japan, with a land size of 377,000 square kilometers, is 1% of Africa's land mass. With population of 124 million, again, maybe 1%, less than 1% of African population. But Japan, the size of Japanese debt is 9 trillion. The size of the African debt market or federal government debt is less than 2 trillion. In fact, if one leaves Japan and come back to Europe, two countries, Italy, again with a land mass of less than 400,000 square kilometers, again less than 1%, or Spain with 500,000, again, all of them, and with population of 60 million, and then Italy, 50 million, Spain, 60 million, Italy. but both of them have debt which are bigger than the African debt. So maybe in part of rethinking social inclusion, the Minister of Livestock have just said we have to help retool and restructure syllabus and training so that we can really pinpoint what are we missing. Our experience as a country in the last 2 years of taking bold, difficult choices that were even risky by those who led because we're in a sub-region that people are even disaffected with democracy, but we took those choices to remove distortions, and we saw the value of the removal of those distortions in terms of governmental revenue, in terms of debt revenue to GDP ratio. But that can only go far. We have to create the mindset that we have to have better access to capital market in order to finance this inclusion and in order to finance this historic underinvestment that beset many countries in Africa. I'm sure the Vice President, maybe time will not permit, but he knows it better than everyone because the Lake Chad problem, maybe if in terms of costing, and I'm inviting maybe research work, maybe it's a $50 billion challenge. If we can invest $50 billion, we can begin to recharge Lake Chad. So it's an underinvestment issue. The Sahelian issue, where a lot of populations are walking around with animals and search of water, illustrate the function of underinvestment. But being that we are not here for that, and I'm sorry, I'm not just speaking, and I've been given 1 minute, but since we are rethinking African development, we have to bring to attention that this whole consists of those who should lead the paradigm shift in drawing attention to what we must do differently and urgently. And luckily, they have the material because of what has been done in Nigeria in the last 2.5 years. I was in this hall the last time, and Patrick Lumumba, the Kenyan public, was here. And he was saying that so long as Nigeria's GDP is less than 10 trillion, Africans will not be happy. Because Nigeria can be 10 trillion, and by God's grace, we have been given the charge, Nigeria will be $1 trillion by 2030. But you can see how other Africans are even thinking we should go. But we can't be tepid, and I believe, Your Excellency, that is the kind of message you need to charge this professional assembly of which you are a member to introspect on the experience of the last 2 years and extrapolate what we must do to get Nigeria to a higher GDP and to get to Africa, and those paradigm shifting thought processes which should be inculcated in our students and at all levels of government. Even the partnership by NES should not restrict itself at the federal government level. It should be at the local government level. It should be at the state level as well as with the federal government level to the highest level. Your Excellency, I know I've taken too much time, with due respect. Last but not the least is to say that Mr. President and the Vice President and the National Economic Council have debated and put in place a renewed hope ward-based development program, which is designed to mobilize the 8,809 wards of this country that are uniquely blessed with different economic opportunities and with energetic, hardworking populace that can be mobilized. The Nigerian Economic Society is welcome to partner with us in that journey. Thank you, Excellency.
Please, another round of applause for His Excellency Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, CON. The minister exceeded his time, understandably so, that he's giving us a lecture here that budgets are beyond paper. They are blueprints for development. Please, another round of applause for him. As we just gradually come to the end of this first session, because this is the opening ceremony, to offer gratitude on behalf of the society, we want to welcome the Vice President of the NES, a scholar and a practitioner, of course, who embodies both humility and leadership. Please welcome Dr. Baba Musa for the vote of thanks.
Okay. Good morning, esteemed dignitaries, distinguished guests, and my fellow members of the Nigerian Economic Society. On behalf of the Nigerian Economic Society, I'm honored to stand before you and express our profound gratitude as we draw the curtain on this impactful gathering. My heart is full of appreciation for every single person who has made this day a resounding success. This conference has been more than just gathering of minds. It has been a forge of ideas, a hope of collaboration, and a moment of renewed purpose. First, we are immensely grateful to the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, for honoring us with his presence and will officially be declaring this conference open in due course. His presence is not merely a formality, it is a profound testament to the high regard that the presidency holds for the intellectual discourse and powerful endorsement of our society's relevance. His insight and leadership has set a truly inspiring tone for our discussions today, affirming the vital role of economic experts play in shaping our nation's future. To our chairman of this occasion, Dr. Shamsuddin Usman, CON CFR NES, His Excellency, we extend our sincerest gratitude to you. Your continuous guidance and wisdom is truly appreciated. Your leadership has not only brought profound sense of gravity to all the proceedings, but also served as a source of inspiration. Thank you for guiding us. We are profoundly honored by the presence of our national economic leaders. We extend our immense appreciation to the Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, His Excellency Senator Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, CON. Your commitment to fostering collaborative environment where policy is informed by expert thought is invaluable. Your engagement demonstrates a forward-looking thinking approach. The Honorable Minister of Livestock Development, Honorable Idi Mukhtar Mahai, we are deeply grateful for your presence and steadfast support. Your commitment highlights a crucial role of government leadership in fostering innovation, sustainability, and resilience in the livestock sector, an effort that is essential for strengthening food security, gathering employment, and promoting inclusive development. We extend our appreciation also to the representative of the African Development Bank who made some remarks here, Dr. Eric Ogunlaye. We want to also acknowledge the presence of Mr. Olayemi Kadeso, here being represented by Dr. Mohammed Sani Abdullahi, the Deputy Governor of Economic Policy of the Central Bank. We thank you for coming, and we'll take your speech in no distant future. We are very grateful to all those who provided the goodwill messages. To our president, Professor Adiola Adenikeju, whose vision and dedication have been instrumental in steering the society, we want to thank you immensely. To our newly fellows that are going to be inducted very soon, we really want to thank you for your intellectual backbone and guiding light of the society. I thank every delegate, every organizer, every member of the media, and every support staff for their tireless effort. The success of this conference belongs to all of us. God bless you. God bless Nigerian Economic Society. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please, that round of applause is anemic. For a gratitude round of applause, please make it more resounding, because he actually thanked all of us. Yes. And just for us to take this order so we are well informed of what's coming up next, our next item will be the investiture of the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And after that investiture, the Vice President will take a speech. After that speech, we'll take photographs, then the national anthem, and we will excuse the Vice President. So that is the order of what will be, taken next. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, of course, like you've heard the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning say earlier on that the VP, of course, is an economist, and we've arrived now at a most historic and memorable moment in the life of this Nigerian Economic Society, the Fellowship Investiture. Of course, this NES Fellowship is not merely a title, I must say. It is the highest honor that the society can bestow, and it's reserved for those whose lives and leadership embody the principles of scholarship, policy, and service to national development, which the VP embodies. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the Nigerian Economic Society is proud to invest His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, Vice President of Nigeria, as a Fellow of the Society, and this solemn investiture will be performed by 3 distinguished personalities of the NES family and Nigeria's economic community. The first is Dr. Samsudeen Usman, CON. Please, Dr. Usman, please come over to the podium. Former Minister of Finance, former Minister of National Planning, and former Deputy Governor of Central Bank. Professor Mike Obada, a former President of the Nigerian Economic Society, also a scholar of national and international standing, a former member of the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank, and of course, our current President, the 44th President of the NES, Professor Adeola Adenikinju, under whose leadership this honor is being conferred. Please, a round of applause. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please rise as we witness the investiture of His Excellency, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as a Fellow.
His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, born on September 2nd, 1966 in Maiduguri, Borno State, is a leader whose journey reflects the power of education, resilience, and service. He holds a bachelor's and master's degree in agricultural economics from the University of Maiduguri and the University of Ibadan, respectively. He began his career in the banking sector, rising to the position of general manager at Zenith Bank before entering the corps of public service. In 2007, he joined the Borno State government as commissioner in several ministries before becoming governor in 2011. Serving 2 terms, Senator Kashim Shettima led with courage during the height of the Boko Haram insurgency, spearheading humanitarian interventions, rebuilding communities, and prioritizing education, healthcare, agriculture, and women's empowerment. His visionary leadership earned him national and international recognition, including multiple Governor of the Year awards. Elected Senator for Borno Central in 2019, he became later Vice President of Nigeria in 2023 alongside President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Fluent in Kanuri, Hausa, and English, Senator Shettima is admired for his intellect, oratory, and passion for service. Beyond politics, he is a keen table tennis player, an avid reader, and a devoted family man, married to Nana Shettima, with whom he has 3 children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency, Senator Kashim Shettima.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. Of course, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, like we said at the beginning, for 66 years, the NES has been the conscience of economic policy in Nigeria. This moment is so symbolic, and it is being performed by three pillars of our economic community, as you can see. As the robe is being placed upon the Vice President, it is more than a garment. Vice President, this garment is a symbol of responsibility. It is a symbol that leadership is not just only about power, it is about wisdom, humility, and most importantly, service to humanity. Please, let's applaud this moment. Let's applaud this moment. Of course, with this investiture, we can now say that economics and politics are now married. And the NES has blessed the union.
Still one more left. Still one more left.
Turn. Okay, good. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Vice President. So we'll prepare to listen to the Vice President's remarks. And after that, of course, we'll take group photographs. Then the national anthem. Yes, please be seated.
Kindly be seated, please. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, GCON, ably represented by the Chairman, House Committee on National Planning and Economic Development, Honorable Boyega Nasir Ishaka. The Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu. The Honorable Minister of Livestock Development, Alhaji Idi Mukhtar Maiha. The Chairman of the occasion, the elder statesman, Dr. Shamsuddin Usman. Our chief host, the President, Nigerian Economic Society, Professor Adeola Adeni Kinju. Dr. Mohamed Sani Abdullahi, another elder statesman, the chairman of the Federal Civil Service Commission, Professor Tunji Olaopa, heads of government agencies and parastatals, captains of industry, compatriots, contemporaries, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. This is a gathering of the cream de la cream of the Nigerian economic family. And economists are perhaps the most uncomfortable of companions. They are the ones you had to confront when you are at war with your own reality. But they are also the ones you embrace when your actions align with truth. Economists may not be miracle workers, but what they practice is a science that no nation can afford to take for granted. We are here. We are growing and we are surviving because we have chosen, however imperfectly, to listen to you more than we listen to our fantasies. And so I join you today to acknowledge the depth of gratitude we owe this distinguished society. This edition of your annual gathering, where you rip apart the ideational complexities that govern our economy, from the struggles of the man on the street to the lofty abstractions of our macroeconomic rankings, is special to me. It comes at a time I am privileged to take my seat among you as a fellow of this society, to have witnessed in practice the trial of economic theories and their impact, to appel the weight of applying them as a policymaker, is to be reschooled in the discipline of economics beyond the walls of any classroom. It is to discover that theories are not merely tested on paper, they are tested on people, and every policy is a verdict on lives. This edition of your gathering continues your perpetual quest for answers. This year, we meet to rethink the strategies before Africa in a shifting global economic order. It could not have come at a better time. I must commend the President of the Nigerian Economic Society, Professor Adeola Adenikinju, and his team for challenging us to reflect on what decades of policy failures and vulnerabilities to global risks have created for Africa. I urge all participants to take their role in this conference, not as a scholarly exercise, but as a continental and national assignment, one expected to salvage Africa's economies from their fragile status. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we need not flog the dead horse that Africa has been left behind. While we are trapped in post-colonial realities and distracted by blame games, our peers in Asia and South America have been busy designing economies that serve as models for the world. Their stories teach us one lesson. Economics and politics are inseparable twins. Dysfunction in one invites chaos in the other. To be an excellent economist, therefore, is to master the application of context-specific solutions. Ours is not a pill of one size fits all. There's a reason many nations in Africa where they are expanding populations at a badge of honor, while others count their progress in GDPs. It is because for so long we have refused to do the right thing. We have ignored our economists, especially those who understand the nexus between politics and economics. A continent of 1.5 billion people should be a horror story to all of us. Worse still, inter-African trade makes up a mere 16% of our global trade volume. Indeed, we know why we are here. This is no accident. What many developing nations on this continent have attempted is to reap where they did not sow. The progressing world is reaping the benefits of planning, of foresight, of aligning with the shifting global economic order. You cannot adopt to change without the infrastructure to do so, and neither can you compete with the world if you lack the resources. The cruel joke of history is that we slept through the first, second, and third waves of the Industrial Revolution. But today, in the fourth Industrial Revolution, we stand at a peculiar crossroad. The opportunity to lay the foundation of our economic future while simultaneously building upon it. There may not be a shortcut, but there is a bridge to leapfrog Africa's development. The knowledge economy, for instance, has shattered the boundaries of reality as we knew it. It compels us to rethink productivity beyond its traditional definitions. We live in a world where a random citizen in Douala can outsource his services to a corporation in Dallas without seeing the inside of a plane or leaving his bedroom. But to catch up with this changing world, Africa must embrace structural transformation that embeds its human capital and reverse unemployment. Poverty must be confronted head-on for the promise of this continent to be realized in the lives of our people. There is no justification for the low per capita income that afflicts our nations amid the resources at our disposal. There was a study done by Conperi, a global consultancy outfit, whereby it is projected that by 2035, there will be 65 million global talent deficits. The United States, Russia, and Brazil will each suffer from 6 million talent deficits. And what is the population of Nigeria? Hovering in the neighborhood of 230 to 250 million. And what is the average age of the Nigerian nation? It's 16.9. We are in a position to harness our youth bulge and transform them into demographic dividends instead of the much feared demographic disaster that is expected to consume all of us. India in 2024 earned over $100 billion from business process outsourcing alone. The highest we have ever earned from the process of oil was $25 billion in 2011 under the leadership of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Honestly, we have no business being poor, especially in this age of the post-industrial revolution. The time difference between Nigeria and Europe is plus or minus 2 hours. And there are more English speakers in Nigeria than in India. And with all due respect, I am not a racist, but I know my English is better than the average Indian English. So, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, hope springs eternal from the hearts of men and women. We have to harness our resources. But yes, we cannot hide from the reality. The threats ahead of us are real. Geopolitical conflicts, trade protectionism, supply chain disruptions, the energy transition, and the disruptive rise of artificial intelligence. They all paint a gloomy outlook, but each threat is also an opportunity in disguise. This is why a society such as ours exists, to light the path of a continent, even in the darkest night. This conference gives us an opportunity to rethink our development paradigms. Its theme provokes an all but unanswered question. Why are Africa's economic peers so far ahead of us in nearly every index of national development? The relevance and success of these days' deliberations will be measured by how boldly and honestly we engage this question. Nigeria is, of course, not exempt from Africa's economic tragedies, but our silver lining, Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, is the listening ear of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Under his ebullient leadership, this administration has embarked on bold and inevitable reforms to address structural weaknesses that others before us only paid lip service to. These reforms testify to the power of political will in economic policy. Their painful but necessary consequences reminds us that a malignant disease can only be cured by painful surgery. The wounds are temporary, but the recovery is permanent. Our heart goes out to Nigerians. We know the pain they are going through, but the surgery is almost inevitable. The removal of petroleum subsidy, the alignment of the multiple exchange regimes, the new tax policy, the tax reforms. When we withdrew the fuel subsidy, we know the consequences of unveiling a masquerade. There was a former governor who narrated the story of his friend telling him that he is tired of making money. The fuel scam industry was a very big industry with humongous war chests that can undermine any state. With the alignment of the multiple exchange rates regime, the opaqueness, while we were minting billionaires overnight, you don't need to go and engage in any productive activity. All you need is to know Dr. Sani Abdullah Detijo, the deputy governor, for him to provide you with the apex, do the round tripping, and make billions overnight. All you need to do is to remit his own portion of the loot. But here we are, Nigerian companies, the Cadbury's, the Nestle's, the Indomie makers are now sourcing for their raw materials internally because it's much more cheaper to do. Let me cite you just one example. There is a company called Presco. A year ago, Presco's share was trading at about 300 to 400 naira. Presco's share grew by 247% in the past 12 months. And Presco posted a first quarter profit of 58 billion naira this year. That shows the results of the economic reforms. But we are not underlying the fact that things are hard. But believe me, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, no matter how long the night is, it must give way to the line of the dawn. Stormy the weather might well be, but it won't rain forever. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the roads may have been bumpy, but our steps are firm. Consistent quarterly GDP growth, improved fiscal space, growth in external reserves, decline in inflation, stabilized exchange rates, and steady expansion of our infrastructure stock are gradually restoring investor confidence in Nigeria's economy. This is what happens when economies are not sidelined. Economists are very active in this business of governance. Professor Adeni Kinju, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, is an economist. He holds BSc Economics from the University of London and MSc in Economics from the University of Sussex, England. The Minister of Budget and National Planning is almost a genius. I take delight in embarrassing him at every forum. He holds BSc Economics from Usmanu Danfodio University, MSc in Economics from the University of Jos, and MA in International Affairs from Columbia University in New York. So these are all members of the same ecosystem. Jumoke Oduole has been in the economic ecosystem for the past 15 years. Yes, she is a lawyer. She holds LLB from the University of Lagos, but she also holds LLM from Cambridge and a master's degree in international legal studies from Stanford. And to cap it all, she holds a PhD in international trade and development from Stanford. That makes her eminently qualified to be the Minister of Trade and Investment. But most importantly, Dr. Jumoke Oduole has been the special advisor to the President on the ease of doing business for 10 years before she was appointed the Minister of Trade and Investment. The gentleman seated here, who was reeling out figures on livestock development, is a square peg in a square hole. He's a practicing farmer. He read agriculture from the University of Maiduguri. So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I crave for your indulgence to give us the benefit of the doubt. We are determined to redefine the meaning and concept of modern leadership. Things are tough, but tough times do not last forever, but tough people do. If Nigeria walks, Africa walks. If Nigeria fails, Africa has failed. 1 out of every 4 black men is a Nigerian. And by 2050, Nigeria will surpass the United States, will be the 3rd most populous nation on earth. And by the end of the century, when all of us here have become poor tenants in the home of the earthworms, Nigeria will be the most populous nation on earth. We have every reason to be proud, to be proudly Nigerian. You don't need a soothsayer to tell you that this is a Nigerian. When you meet a Nigerian along the street of London, he will not give way for the white man. He will walk majestically with confidence. We are a very swashbuckling, very proud. Yes, we are loud, so be it. But we are very confident people. I left Zenith Bank as a general manager. I became a commissioner. I did not step out of this country, not even to neighboring Chad or Niger or Cameroon, until I became a commissioner in 2007. Not that I couldn't afford to, but I never saw jumping into the same swimming pool with a white man as a rite of passage to the wall. I'm very confident. I'm very comfortable in my skin. I'm proudly Nigerian. And that's in the DNA of each and every one of us here. So we can make this country work. It's easy to criticize. It's easy to insult. But it's not easy to perform. I urge all of us to rally around each other to make this country work. And do not mistake me. We have never claimed the journey to be without storms. We have acknowledged the inflationary impact of our reforms and the spillovers from global crisis into our economy. But we are determined to do differently. What we are determined to do differently is never again to sideline our economic thinkers. This President Tinubu has remained committed to investment-friendly measures and social protection programs to cushion the vulnerable. Policies in transportation, healthcare, education, and agriculture have been deliberately targeted at reducing inequality because these are the sectors that affect the weakest amongst us. This is the mandate this conference has given us to find new pathways to solutions. The nation awaits your deliberations and recommendations. As the saying goes, if you sleep through the planting season, be prepared to harvest regret. I wish you fruitful deliberations and a rich crop of ideas for a nation in transition. With these remarks, it is my singular honor and privilege to cherish forever to declare this conference open. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please, yes. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic. Please, Your Excellency, please remain on stage for the group photographs. Can we please quickly invite those of the first states here to join the Vice President for the group photograph? Yes. The first row to join the Vice President for the group photograph with Dr. Eric Ogulaye, Director of the African Development Institute, to join.
Move this now.
You can move it.
We can
You can move it,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Move it. It's coming. Or is it stuck?
No, it's not stuck.
It's not stuck. Let me. Okay. Jesus. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. Follow. Watch your back. Manage it. Thank you.
Okay, please, can we still be upstanding for the national anthem? And after the national anthem, we will still be upstanding as the Vice President exits. very much, Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON. Thank you very much, sir, for gracing this event. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for His Excellency. You know, the Vice President now is a fellow, so everything that we discuss here will be given to him, and they will definitely know what has happened here today, and of course, the remaining days to take note of that. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And just as the Vice President leaves, I also want to announce that we do have
the ministers, the two ministers, we have plaques for the gift to them to be present.
Good message. Good message. Good message, Abi. No, we can't wait for anything. What we are doing is they can come out with message. Please help us. Thank you. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please, can we be seated? Please, can we be seated? The program is still on. We just had to allow the Vice President to exit. Please be seated. The program would continue. Please be seated. Please be seated. Please be seated. Thank you. Please let us calm down, and please let us calm down. Please be seated, please. Music. I would ask for a slight music as an interlude. Let's call them so that everybody will calm down.
Okay, please, may we be kindly seated as we continue the program. In a bit, we will be hearing from the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, his representative here, the Special Advisor to the President on Finance and Economy, Mrs. Sonyade Okoli, will be coming up shortly to give the speech. Also, the representative of the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, is represented here ably by Dr. Abdullahi Sani, Deputy Governor, Economic Policy Directorate of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Please, may we be kindly seated, everybody. May we settle down. This program continues. Please, may we be kindly seated? Okay. All right, as we continue with the program, let's quickly call with a warm welcome the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, CON, who is ably represented here by the Special Advisor to the President on Finance and Economy, Ms. Sonia Okole. Please, a round of applause for her.
Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. Firstly, allow me to apologize on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edu, who was really hoping to be here to share this goodwill message. He's unavoidably absent, but is very much looking forward to being part of the fireside chat later this afternoon with Minister Bagudu. I'll go on to, I've been told 5 minutes, so go on to read a condensed, his condensed speech. I'd like to sincerely appreciate the invitation to participate in the 66th Annual Conference of the Nigerian Economic Society. Let me firstly congratulate the Council of the Nigerian Economic Society, my society, as the Vice President has mentioned. I am very much an economist, which is amongst one of the oldest think tanks, but also that has one of the most outstanding economists in the world for this conference. This year's conference is a testament to 66 years of unwavering evidence-based advocacy and policy impact analysis. This year's theme, Rethinking Africa's Development, is timely and it is strategic. It also aligns with the Renewed Hope Agenda's focus of unlocking Nigeria's potential for shared prosperity amidst heightening global uncertainties. We're all fully aware that for years now, the Nigerian economy has operated in a state of disequilibrium that has been masking itself as equilibrium. And we found ourselves in a situation where a few people were benefiting to the detriment of very many. And this false equilibrium was unsustainable, and there was this urgent need for reform, which President Tinubu over the last couple of years has undertaken. Thankfully, we're seeing the benefits of the reforms. There's enhanced economic resilience, there's restored macroeconomic stability, and there's a more transparent and competitive business environment. But we're very clear that that is just the start. A lot more work needs to go towards deepening the reform to enable us to achieve the 7% growth in the medium term. That growth can only be stimulated by investment. So the focus of our activities at this time is really about creating the enabling environment to attract the investment required to drive the growth that we desire to see. And there are 4 pillars to this making the economy more attractive. The first is the continued pursuit of macroeconomic stability. We have the Deputy Governor Economic Policy here and all the work that they've been doing to ensure that the inflation continues to trend down and we continue to maintain the foreign exchange rate stability. The second pillar is the strengthened governance, policy, and regulatory frameworks. For that, we've seen the Tax Reform Act, which really aims to, has just consolidated various regulations, laws, etc., relating to tax to ensure that there's clarity, there's coherence, and it makes the entire tax governance structure easier for citizens, for businesses, and for the administration. We've also been working on something like the National Single Window, which again will help importers and exporters and make trade more seamless. The third pillar is improved infrastructure. And I'll give you an example. Through the Mission 300, Nigeria is seeking to mobilize $32 billion in energy access investments with the support of World Bank and our proud sponsors, the African Development Bank. And then the third pillar is the access to capital. Again, the central bank has been doing a tremendous job in that regard, both in the banking recapitalization, which is going well, and just making the framework for banks, etc., more smooth. And then also we have the SEC, the Investment and Securities Act 2025, that's been enacted, and we're in the process of institutionalizing that act. So going forward, we believe that the pathway is clear, but we're also clear, and has been said so many times this morning, that it is not something that can be done without partnering with the Nigerian Economic Society. We appreciate everything that has been done so far, even the partnership that we have enjoyed with yourselves thus far. And we look forward to continued to even strengthened engagements. As I've been hearing some of the feedback here, I've already shared a message with one of my colleagues saying, how can we strengthen the engagement with the National Economic Summit, Society, both for the here and now, and the work that we're doing, but also to ensure that it is sustainable as the path is being developed towards the future. So on that note, I want to wish you a continued engaging and insightful engagement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, ably represented by the Special Advisor to the President on Finance and Economy, Mrs. Sonia Deokoli. Please, another round of applause for her. Our next speaker, of course, is at the apex space of monetary policy in Nigeria. They're in charge of price stability, inflation fighting, printing our naira, and everything associated with it. And this conference would not be complete if we do not hear from that arm. As every economy, as I know, stands on, they say whether 3 legs, or it could be more than 3 legs now. Trade policy, fiscal policy, monetary policy, and other policies now that are coming that we may not know. There's the AI, a lot of things that we know, digital disruptions that we should brace ourselves for. And I'm sure that as economists in the room, we should also discuss that. Things are happening. I may be here with you now, you may be online, my AI online, doing other things. So we need to take that into cognizance, and we need to get ready for it as an economy. Our next speaker, like I mentioned earlier, has been at the forefront of FX unification, trying to get our naira in check. And I remember I had a conversation with a representative of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria today, who is the Deputy Governor Economic Policy, Dr. Abdullahi Sani. I had a conversation with him perhaps 2-3 months ago, and I almost accused him. I said, DG, I want to see a naira that is 1,000 naira to the dollar. Why are we having it at 1,500 naira? So I'm sure, as we expect the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, here to speak, ably represented by Dr. Abdullahi Sani, the Deputy Governor of the Economic Policy Directorate of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Please, can you give him a round of applause as he comes? And let's give him an inflation-free applause. Inflation-free, if we can achieve that.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Your Excellency, the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, the Right Honorable Speaker, ably represented, the Chair of the occasion, Dr. Shamsuddin Usman, Honorable Minister for Budget and National Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu, Honorable Minister for Livestock Development, Special Advisors to the Government, Chair, DGs, CEOs, other colleagues from across government, state government, commissioners, captains of industry, academia, fellows, and members of the Nigerian Economic Society, organized private sector, civil society groups, the students that are here. Can we get a round of applause for the students? The media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'll be delivering a speech on behalf of the Central Bank Governor, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, who is at another event right now and will have to be switching. So I'm hoping at some point he'll be able to also grace this particular occasion. So the next few words that you'll hear will be as sanctioned by him. It's indeed an honor and a privilege for me to join you at this 66th annual conference of the Nigerian Economic Society, a platform that has consistently provided thought leadership and intellectual policy direction on the pressing economic issues facing Nigeria and the African continent at large. Let me begin by commending the Society for its consistency over the years in convening this important event, where some of the finest minds in economics and public policy gather to reflect, critique, and propose solutions for our nation and our continent. This year's theme, Rethinking Africa's Development, Pathways to Economic Transformation and Social Inclusion in a Changing Global Economic Landscape, is apt, timely, and relevant as the global economy undergoes profound changes and Africa stands at a critical juncture. Across Africa today, we are confronted with shifting economic dynamics, slower global growth, volatile capital flows, persisting inflationary pressures, risks, rising debt burdens, and heightened geopolitical tensions. These developments compel us to ask tough questions about the sustainability of our growth models and the inclusivity of our development strategies. For Nigeria in particular, these developments demand bold and innovative responses. Traditional growth models that rely narrowly on resource extraction or import substitution are no longer sufficient. We must rethink and re-engineer pathways that not only drive transformation, but also foster inclusivity, diversification, and the creation of broad-based opportunities that improve livelihoods and reduce poverty. From the perspectives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, we recognize that sustainable economic transformation cannot be achieved without macroeconomic stability. Price stability is not an end in itself, but a means of creating the right environment for investment, innovation, and inclusive growth. In pursuit of this mandate, the Central Bank of Nigeria has undertaken key reforms in recent months. We have implemented critical foreign exchange market reforms by introducing a willing buyer, willing seller framework, unifying exchange rate windows, and leveraging transparent electronic platforms to reduce arbitrage and speculation. As we have heard earlier today, the various exchange rates subsidies that have been implemented in the past were costing us over 6% of GDP per annum. These reforms have therefore not only begun to yield tangible results, as the exchange rate spread has narrowed significantly between the official rate and the BDC rate, but the CBN has also reviewed the rules that govern bureau de change operators with a two-tier licensing system, now requiring significant capital, over 2 billion, for national-scale Tier 1 operators and 500 million naira for Tier 2 state-only operators. This is provided to improve market discipline, reduce shallowness, and enhance regulatory oversight. To restore confidence and improve liquidity at the foreign exchange market, the management of the bank has cleared a backlog of verifiable foreign exchange commitments of over $7 billion US. Consequently, foreign portfolio investments to Nigeria have surged over $1.74 billion in June 2025 from $0.04 billion in January 2024. For monetary policy, we have transitioned away from the prolonged unorthodox measures, returning to the use of traditional policy instruments such as the monetary policy rate MPR and the cash reserve ratio CRR, tightening to rein in inflation. Inflation, which peaked at 40% in 2022, has moderated to 21.88% in July 2025, reflecting progress towards price stability as we prepare for a full-fledged inflation targeting framework. Banking sector reforms have also been prioritized, with a recapitalization program to strengthen resilience and global competitiveness, alongside financial inclusion initiatives targeting women, youth, and underserved populations. The recapitalization program, which should be fully implemented by March 2026, is expected to strengthen the resilience and competitiveness of the Nigerian banking industry and reposition it to support a $1 trillion economy. All these efforts have yielded positive results, as gross external reserves rose from $34.7 billion in mid-2024 to over $41.6 billion today, representing about 11 months of import cover for goods. Side by side with this, we have seen significant improvements in our balance of payments, which turned surplus for the first time in a long time to over $6.7 billion surplus at the end of 2024. The export potential of the economy has also significantly improved. Remittances through formal channels have surged, while there have been improved confidence in the naira due to ease in speculative pressure. These reforms, coupled with our determination to reinforce central bank autonomy, have contributed to stabilizing Nigeria's macroeconomic environment, earning us significant improvements in our sovereign credit rating and renewed global confidence. Importantly, economic transformation in today's world requires not only the harnessing of domestic resources, but also strong partnerships with regional peers, development partners, and the private sector. Above all, inclusivity must remain at the heart of our strategy. A transformed Africa is one where opportunities are broadly shared, inequalities are reduced, and no group is left behind. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I want to assure you that the reforms undertaken over the last 2 years position Nigeria strongly on a path towards economic transformation. Let me conclude by reaffirming the Central Bank of Nigeria's readiness to work closely with other stakeholders, government, academia, and the private sector in designing and implementing policies that move Nigeria and indeed Africa from vulnerability to resilience and from potential to prosperity. I want to thank most sincerely the Nigerian Economic Society and its leadership once again for inviting me, and I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you for your attention. Before I leave, I just want to say 1 or 2 words in my own capacity as Deputy Governor of Economic Policy. I was very happy when I walked into the hall and I ran into a number of my own lecturers from university. Professor Muntaga is here. I believe I saw one or two others. And I really just want to talk directly to our students who are here today. 23 years ago, I was sitting exactly where you are sitting here today, listening to these kinds of conversations. And today I have the opportunity to represent the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. I think I deserve a round of applause. But more importantly, I think that it's very important that you understand that there are significant opportunities for people who want to contribute. When you work really hard and you continue to keep an interest on the public policy direction of our economy, you will one day have the opportunity. And when you do get the opportunity, we hope that we'll all be joined in the direction to move toward Nigeria and Africa's transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please, can we give him a big round of applause? We are just at that point where we'll be doing some presentations, and these presentations would call on the president of the Nigerian Economic Society, Dr. Adela, please come forth. And then we'll call on Dr. Sarah Alade. She should also please come front. And we'll call on Dr. Aliyu Ahmed, also should please come forward. They are the three of them in that order. We'll be making the presentations. I hope our plugs and our presentation certificates are all ready. Thank you very much. The first recipient for the award is the Honorable Minister of Livestock, the person of Alhaji Idi Mukhtar Maiha. Please, can we give him a big round of applause as he comes forth? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The next is the Honorable Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, ably represented by Dr. Felix Okonkwo, the Mazi himself. Can we give him a big round of applause? Thank you very much, sir. Representing the Minister of Economic Affairs, yeah? Madam Lady, please go ahead, yeah? For the well-researched paper presented by the Honorable Minister for Budget and Economic Planning, we want to say thank you so much. We would also want to call the Honorable Minister of State for Finance, Dr. Doris Uzoka. Yes, please, can we give her a big round of applause? Dr. Doris Uzoka. Hide behind, you come from the front. I see you. Thank you very much. We'll call on Professor Uche Waleke. Professor Uche Waleke. A round of applause. Is he here with us? Or is somebody picking up on his behalf? He's not around. I'm sure the president will keep it for him. We also have Dr. Eric Ogunleye. I think he's around, or he has a representation. Yes. Doctor, I don't know how you went and took yourself. A ruby has no hiding place. The plaque, yes. The next in line is the governor of the central bank or his representation. Governor of the central bank. Representation. Thank you. Please, can you bring the plaque for the governor of the central bank? Please. Go down. Yes. Go down. You climb up.
Mr. Olayemi Michael Cardoso, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, is a visionary leader in finance and governance. Since assuming office in September 2023, he has steered the nation's monetary authority with a bold mandate to restore credibility and stability amid inflation and currency volatility. Under his leadership, the CBN has undertaken sweeping reforms, unifying the Naira's exchange rate, clearing foreign exchange backlogs, and enhancing transparency in the market. These measures have rebuilt investor confidence and strengthened Nigeria's economic foundations. His transformative leadership has earned global recognition, and in 2025, he was named Central Bank Governor of the Year at the African Banker Awards in Abidjan, and also honored at the inaugural Nairametrics Capital Market Choice Awards for his reform-driven contributions to Nigeria's financial system. A graduate of Aston Business School and Harvard University with an honorary doctorate in business administration, Governor Cardoso brings technical expertise, vision, and a passion for inclusive growth and sustainable economic development. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Olayemi Michael Cardoso.
Thank you very much. Please go and give him a big round of applause. We have Professor Uche Owaleke, ably represented here by Dr. Rislanuddin Muhammad. Professor Owaleke is being represented by Dr. Muhammad. I think we would not want to keep our presenters standing, so I think we would want to excuse them, please. Thank you very much. Please can we give them a big round of applause. We want to thank Madam Sarah Alade and Dr. Ahmed for a very beautiful job. Well done. We thank you very much. As I said earlier when we were opening the session, I said when you have a lot of eggheads quite a lot happens. And sometimes you have to shift the goalposts, you have to shift the referees and all of that to make way for a lot to take place. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may we invite the representative of the distinguished Right Honorable Speaker of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to make his goodwill message. Please, can we give him a big round of applause? Thank you very much. I can see we have 5 minutes. I think that'll be enough.
It's even too much. It's even too much. Yeah, protocol is that there was that blue paper there. Yeah. That's one pager. Yes, the one pager. Yes. Yeah, thank you very much. Well, thank you. I thought this has been overtaken by events. The Vice President, who did a very good job and just left, and then the President of the 44th Assembly, Professor Adenikiju, honorable ministers, all distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring apology and very warm greetings from the Speaker of Nigerian House of Representatives, Right Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, PhD, who would have loved to be here, but for equally important national assignment. He has asked me to congratulate the Council and members of the Nigerian Economic Society for playing such a pivotal and pioneering role in providing intellectual leadership in the development of the country's socio-economic landscape. With Africa contributing less than 3% to the global wealth, despite 20% of global population, and with 19 out of 20 world poorest nations being African countries, the Speaker agrees with the Society that it is indeed time to rethink the African development pathway towards getting models that suit our situation and peculiarities. But I am more particularly excited to be in the midst of juggernauts and so many professors of economics in this intriguing field of economics here today. After my initial interface with the works of the likes of Richard T. Lipsey, Michael Todaro, Kosianis, and so many of all those kind of economic books that I had to interface with as a student of accounting of the University of Ife in the mid-80s. I'm so happy to be here to listen to great minds in this field, to learn more about some of those theories, laws, models, and paradoxes, and how this can be applied to the real world. I'm here to represent the Speaker, but I think it's also an opportunity for me to get closer to the Nigerian Economic Society, because indeed I've been hearing so much about this, but this is my first interface. And I must say, and let me apply, verbally, that if given the permission, I would also like to be a member of this society. Once again, congratulations and happy deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the Speaker of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, ably represented. Please can we give him a big round of applause? Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I know the day is well spent. Sometimes you might take your tea in the name of lunch, or you take your lunch in the name of tea, whichever comes first. What we do is that we'll make sure we have the best of the conference before we take a break. So distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the President of the NES is here to give us some address, a presentation. Please come welcome Dr. Adeola. Please, a round of applause for him. Thank you very much. Please, our ICT, can we have the presentation online so that the all will follow up. Thank you.
Well, we are making some changes in the program to just reflect the exigencies that are coming in. In the next couple of minutes, the two ministers are coming back, the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Budget, for the fireside chats. And so I have to give the presidential address in between so that when they come in, they can then start the fireside chats engagement. So permit me, the tradition really is that the immediate past president is supposed to chair this session and give some remarks. But because a lot of things are just shifting, I've been asked to just hold on, make this presentation so that when the ministers come, they can then go straight to the fireside chats. So I'm going to present the presidential address as the 44th president of the Nigerian Economic Society. They are going to upload my presentation. I want to appeal to you, like the MC said, the tea breaks will come later on. The tea break is available, the lunch is available. Please just bear with us. So this year I'm going to be speaking on Nigeria's growth experience in 1960, lessons, missed opportunities, and pathways to transformation. And so basically, we're going to be looking at what are the reasons why Nigeria has underperformed in terms of growth expectations. And we're going to be comparing Nigeria's growth performance with two other countries, Malaysia and Indonesia. So these are some lessons we could learn in the trajectories of growth of these three countries. The reason we chose Malaysia and Indonesia was that in 1960, at Nigeria's independence, the growth, the per capita income of these three countries were very close. Very, very close to one another. But in the last 60 years or so, one of them has become a rich upper income country, Malaysia. One has become, a middle income country, and Nigeria has stayed at the bottom, remains, stagnant, so to speak. So I want to see what are the experiences that Nigeria could learn from these countries, as a way of driving some policy recommendations. And I'm not going to be just looking at the traditional variables, economic indicators. I'm also going to be looking at issues around institutions, issues around economic governance, and other factors that have helped these other two countries to move faster than Nigeria. Then, in addition, I'm going to be answering one of the questions that, that was posed earlier on, or some of the, what the minister said about us reaching $1 trillion economy in the next 5 years. So the question I've also analyzed in this paper is the $1 trillion economy feasible in 2030? We're at 2025 now, and government says that by 2030 they want to achieve an economy that is $1 trillion. So the question is that feasible? So I'm going to use some economic analysis to also show whether that is feasible or not. And then the last thing that we also examine in this presentation is the question: could Nigeria have adopted another trajectory since 1960 that could have given us a different outcome from where we are now? We have an outcome, okay? We have a trajectory that we have followed between 1960 and now. Were there policies that we have put in place that could have changed the trajectory of our development? And I also try to examine that in this paper. So let's quickly go to the first part of the paper, where we look at Nigeria's growth performance since 1960, and what are the highlights of that? One of the highlights of that is that Nigeria's economy now is less diversified than what it was in the 1970s. Okay? In the 1970s, we have an economy that is more diversified than what we have presently. So if you look at the structure of the economy, our structures are still basically, very close to what it was. We have a big agricultural sector. In the 1960s, the agricultural sector was about 60% of the GDP. Now it's around 25%. The manufacturing sector remains stultified. Okay, you have a burgeoning, services sector, but then if you look at the structure of the civil service, the service sector, you also know that it's a sector that is characterized by low productivity, low value added, and therefore it's not, really what we need that can actually transform this economy into a developed one. Another feature that we will see in terms of Nigeria's economic growth is that our growth rate has been characterized by a lot of, variability. If you look at the growth rate, you have a whole lot of volatilities in that growth rate. Okay? Now, the volatility, unfortunately, is around a very low mean. You can have volatilities that is, around an upward trend in growth. Ours is not. So that's why between 1960 and 1999, you will find out, or that is 1990 in particular, you will find out that our average per capita income remains almost the same, unchanged. So in fact, you could look at those 3 decades as a lost decade for Nigeria. Okay? So we have volatilities. Other countries have volatilities, but the volatility is around an upward trend. Ours, it's not really like that. Okay? And therefore, if you then partition our growth to decades, what you are going to find is this, that between 1960 and 1970, okay, or 60 and 69, you have very high, average growth, and then you also have a very low growth, very significant negative growth, okay? And then you have the number of times, I tried to look at the number of times that the GDP per capita was negative per decade. In 1980 to 1989, 9 years. Of those 9 years, we recorded negative growth per capita growth rate 6 times. So it was only 3 times that our per capita income growth was positive. The only decade in our history where we consistently recorded positive growth rate at per capita income was between 2000 and 2009. Every other one, you have a situation where you have both positive, have a lot of, negative economic growth rate. Another feature that I quickly just want to mention is with respect to our investment GDP and savings GDP. Again, if you look at, in all the growth models that you have, investment is critical to growth. So you must find a way of mobilizing domestic resource, supported by external resources in order to drive growth, in order to drive investment. If you look at the structure of our investment GDP ratio, for over 20 years, almost 30 years, it was on the downward trend, okay? And our savings GDP growth was also very, 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 very small. So how are we different from Indonesia and Malaysia? Okay, there were a lot of variables, a lot of indicators that are used to compare the 2 of them, or the 3 of them. Now, one of them is that in terms of prosperity index, okay, prosperity index is a measure of a whole lot of variables, state and security, governance, and so on and so forth. Again, Nigeria ranks very low among these 3 countries. If you look at macroeconomic volatilities, almost all the macroeconomic variables, consumption, exchange rate, export growth, GDP growth, import growth, inflation, investment growth, you will also notice that Nigeria is characterized by significant volatilities in all of these variables. The only areas, where Indonesia had more volatility was the area of exchange rate and inflation. Okay, and that was basically in the 1990s and 80s. But now it's a lot more stable than Nigeria and Malaysia. So in other words, we need to find a way as a country of ensuring that we mitigate the volatilities in our macroeconomic variable in order to drive growth. Now, I also look at the composition of growth, as one of the solo growth model. says that growth, GDP growth, can be decomposed into, what is happening to your capital intensity, what is happening to capital productivity, what is happening to labor productivity and total factor productivity. Again, Nigeria is characterized by low capital intensity, low capital productivity, low labor productivity, and our average total factor productivity was negative between 1960 and 2023. So whereas Malaysia and Indonesia, were able to have positive total factor productivity growth on the average, over those those 6 decades or so, and they also outperformed Nigeria in terms of both the capital intensity, capital productivity, labor productivity, and so on and so forth. So, so these factors, have helped to, pull us down. And then also, if you look at, again, from theory, we know, if you look at the growth theory, also mentions the fact that, if you have if your labor is not your constraint, then what drives growth? Okay, our Y equals F, K, and L. If you are not labor constrained, then what drives growth is capital. And then you can look at various types of capital. Okay, capital can be decomposed into foreign capital, human capital, social capital, natural capital, and physical capital. Now, if you compare Nigeria with these other countries, Nigeria is also, at a very, very low level, except natural capital. Our foreign capital, we underperformed. Human capital, there is a greater gap between human capital in Nigeria and these other 2 countries. Social capital, the same thing. Natural capital is the only, form of capital that Nigeria outperformed Malaysia and Indonesia. Again, the implication of that is very clear. That is not natural capital alone per se that will drive growth. So it's not the amount of, oil that you have in your land or that your ground, or the amount of all of these other things that we're looking at of natural resources that will drive growth. Those are facilitators of growth. What will drive growth sustainably from endogenous growth theory is basically your human capital in particular. And if you look at that, Nigeria index was 38, compared to Malaysia, 85 out of 100, Indonesia, 65. So we basically underperform also in that. And then because I also think, like I said, I was just going to look at the traditional factors, that for a large economy like Nigeria, agriculture is very important to us. Manufacturing is very important to us. Because agriculture, within agriculture, for instance, for food security, and for other reasons. And manufacturing, you need that, again, to be able to, address the issues of poverty, address the issue of employment, and so on and so forth. So when President Trump is saying, bring jobs back to America, bring manufacturing back to America, is because there's a resilience that manufacturing sector provides for you. So as we are managing our economic growth, economic reforms, again, I've made this point also to government, that we must be very careful. Because if you look at the social adjustment program, 1986 to 1990, yes, almost all what we are seeing in terms of economic outcome, your GDP growth, increase in government revenue, and so on and so forth, SAP also gave us that. But SAP killed our industrial sector. SAP killed the agricultural sector. So there must be a way by which we do reforms and keep an eye on our cultural growth or development and the growth of manufacturing sector. So you see these 2 countries, Malaysia and Indonesia, had very clear plan and program for the development of these 2 sectors. Consciously. You can't leave it to market forces. Market forces is about short term. And where you have all markets in perfection and absence of markets, the market system will only look at short term. And so what you're going to have is services, something that is quick returns. That is not what we need to have a sustainable economic development. So you look at what is happening what happened in Indonesia and Malaysia, you see a conscious development in terms of linking the educational sector to agricultural sector to the manufacturing sector. Now what we have in Nigeria is that those sectors are developing on their own. Even when we have students in the agricultural sector, many of them, all their practical is within the university, not the farm. The curricula is not even, directed to answer some of those questions that we needed to do. So, there's a need to actually ensure that in the reforms that we're doing, there's a consciousness that will drive agricultural, and we also focus on manufacturing. Those are very critical. And interestingly, if you look at 1960, where Nigeria was in 1960 with respect to those two sectors, manufacturing and agriculture, was not totally different from where those two countries are. But what happened between them from 1960 will just amaze you. Okay? So I have some indicators here, manufactured exports, manufacturing output, manufacturing value added, manufacturing imports, manufacturing investment, productivity, FDI, for, a lot of these, Nigerians and these other countries were, negligible in terms of development. But what has happened is that Malaysia now, in many of these indicators, is, among the top performers in the world. Indonesia also relatively, but Nigeria has remained, very fast. So there must be some consciousness to change the narratives. The same thing in agriculture. You look at productivity of agriculture in those countries, again, they have made significant, improvements. In fact, I was looking at Nigeria's position in 1960 and 2023. In cocoa, we are first in 1960. In 2023, we are fourth globally. In palm oil, we are first in 1960. In 2023, we are fifth. In rubber, we are 10th in 1960. Now we're 12th. Rice, we have been able to make some improvement from 10 to 8. Cassava will remain number 1. Tomatoes, we have some improvement from 10th to 1st to 6th. Beans, were 5th in 1960. We are 10th now. And yam will still remain the same. So in some areas, we've slided, and some areas we have been able to, to still to fall behind. Then I also look at quality of education institutions. Now, one of the arguments I've made in last year's presidential address also is that no country can outgrow the level of our university. If you don't develop your university, you cannot grow sustainably. So there's a limit in your tertiary institutions and growth, because the hub of innovations is the university. And also that's where we're going to train people that will man other sectors. So if we underdevelop the university, then you're going to have, in the long run, a country where the other sectors will not perform very well. And last year we saw what happened. China has been able to move from where it was. In 1960, Nigeria per capita income was higher than that of China. Now China is the second largest economy in the world. Go and look at what will happen to their universities. China, in some metrics, nature's ranking, in the top STEM, science, technology, and mathematics, and the other one, China's universities, out of the top 10 in the world, many of them, the top seven of those 10 are Chinese universities. So China has invested so much in the university, and that's what we need to do. So I compare what is happening in Nigeria and Malaysia and Indonesia along tertiary enrollment rate, tertiary attainment, number of universities, quality of university education, education index, government spending on education, and government, you will discover that we again underperform relative to these countries. Now, we will mention to you, in Indonesia and Malaysia, education takes at least 20% of the budget. In Nigeria, the highest we've done recently is 5%. In those two countries, education accounts for about 4% of GDP. In Nigeria, it is 0.5%. So those two countries have identified the role of human capital development, the important role that university, that education plays, and that has been part of the factors that has driven their growth. So you look at the universities in those countries and Nigeria, again, the universities are ranked higher than that of Nigeria. Institutional development, I look at rule of law index. Again, rule of law provides some certainties around which investment can be made. You want investors to come to your country, you must have, good, justice systems, rule of laws that will enable people, investors to make decisions, okay, and commit investments, okay. But if you look at Nigeria again, Indonesia, Malaysia basically outperform Nigeria. And then in other institutional structure, Malaysia has kept fiscal deficit below 3% of GDP. Now in Nigeria, fiscal deficit, the law says it should be 3%. But in practice, you see that the GDP deficit, the budget deficit GDP ratio is much higher than that. Okay? And also, this inflation targeting, Indonesia has been doing that, it's 3 plus or minus 1%. Inflation in Nigeria is over 20% currently. So we have institutional structure that, again, has not made us to be able to, to work very well. One other thing I actually just want to mention with respect to that, the institutional structure, is that, and the chairman of today said it, Malaysia had a 20-year development plan. The work, the budget, and everything is linked to a long-term plan. The same thing happens in Malaysia, Indonesia. They have long-term plan. So whatever they are doing, resource allocations, budgetary allocations, everything is done within the context of a long-term vision. In Nigeria, the 5 years plan, we cannot even give fidelity to it. I was opportune to chair the macroeconomic framework of the current plan, the 2021 to 2025. Now, I'm not sure any government implemented anything in that, and that is ending. I'm going to start another one, and I can assure you, except things change, the budget will be running, the MSS, the middle-term framework will be running, and they will have no linkage with what is going on in the long run. So we can develop. To build a power plant, we need 4 years, one power plant. And that is even a power plant that is, thermal, gas fire. You need 3 to 4 years to build it, from conception to the end. So any long-term development, you are getting long-term investment, take time to manifest. So they must be done in the context of a long-term perspective, not some of this short-term, 1, 2, 3 years, or the life of one political regime or the other. And then another thing that you also find in those two countries is that they have been able to insulate, like I was trying to say earlier on, some ministries are critical ministries that are, insulated from political interference. Okay? In Indonesia, they are what they call the Berkeley Mafia. The Ministry of Planning, Budget, and those critical areas, they were manned by those who went to, some of the Indonesians that went to study for the University of Berkeley. In other words, we are looking at technical competence. The same thing also happened in Malaysia, where their national planning units are technical, they are technocrats, not politicians, not civil servants that don't have those kind of trainings. And I will tell you, because I have it here, that when you get those, actually those people should have been distributed by the presidential address now. I was looking at the 3 ministries, the permanent secretaries between 1999 and now in budget, in finance, and in trade. The last 3 permanent secretaries in the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, none of them read economics. Not only that, you had a vet doctor, you had a pharmacist, you have a civil engineer. Those are the permanent secretary, the highest civil service position in those ministries. They had no bearing with economics. And of those who are in finance, again, I have it here, the number of permanent secretaries that had training in economics. And these are people that are going to engage and enter into, sign agreements on behalf of Nigeria. There must be a way, which is what those countries have done to insulate those sectors, those ministries. And, at the high level, I'm not talking about ministers, which was what the VP was saying. I'm saying the high level, from director up, those highest level of people in those ministries should be manned by economists, or those who study something related to economics. Now, if you look at the economic management in Nigeria and some of these other countries, like I said, not just looking at the variable alone, The Obasanjo's regime, which interestingly, in terms of economic performance, till now, can be, and the achievements that they've recorded, has the highest number of economists in government, followed by, Yar'Adua and then Jonathan. The Buhari administration had, I think, about 4 economists, 3 economists in government, and the current regime had just 4 people who are economists. So our point of involving more economists administration, I think, is still valid. Then I look at the leaders, the leadership in those countries, and I also look at, in my view, what I call that traditional economic positions. The governor of the central bank, the minister of finance, the chief economic advisor, and I compare the 3 countries. In terms of the number of percentage of economists that they had, percentage of those holders of office that have advanced degree, those who studied within the university, the average number of years in office, percentage of women. In Nigeria, I'll just give some of the data that we have. In Nigeria, the central bank governors, only 33% were economists. Indonesia, 100% of the holders of the central who are the governors of central bank were economists in Indonesia. In Malaysia, 50%. In those 3 countries, in Nigeria, those who are governors of central bank that had advanced degree, 67% in Nigeria, 75% in Indonesia, and 75% in Malaysia. In other words, 3 out of 4 governors of central banks in Indonesia and Malaysia had advanced degrees, okay? And in many of these countries, a lot of them also had, they were trained abroad, not home degree, they were trained abroad. Then in terms of the stability of government, the average number of years that CBN governors spend in Nigeria, the central bank governors spend in Nigeria is 5, in Indonesia 8 years, in Malaysia 8 years. So you have more stability in governance. In these 3 countries, none of them had a woman, as a governor. Now, with Minister of Finance, in Nigeria, 50% of the ministers were economists. Indonesia, 100%. Malaysia, 17. So then, in terms of advanced degrees, Nigeria, 42%, Indonesia, 75%. And only Nigeria had women. 50% of Minister of Finance in Nigeria had been women. That's between 2000 and now, compared to these other countries. Chief Economic Advisor. Malaysia does not have that position, but Nigeria had, and Indonesia. And in Nigeria, which is interesting, 75% of the holders were economists, Indonesia 50%, and in Nigeria, those who have held that position, 100%, all of them had advanced degrees in economics. Okay, with respect to what I said earlier on about permanent secretary in economy-related ministry, 1999 to 2025, Ministry of Finance, there have been just 3 economists, and the former permanent secretary is here. This data we have. Related discipline 5, arts and law 3. In budget and economic planning, since between 1999 to 2025, only 3 permanent secretaries were economists. In Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, only 1. Now, in other words, these 3 ministries, okay, out of the 45 permanent secretaries they've heard between 1999 to 2025, only 7 were economists, okay, in the 3 of them. So in other words, our position and the argument, is that there should be more involvement of economists in these 3 ministries, in governance in Nigeria. And we argue that, Like I said earlier, those who are going to head those ministries as permanent secretaries or directorate level must have some training in economics. So what are the lessons we've learned? So from the experiences of Malaysia and Indonesia, what are the experiences we've learned? Number one is that you must invest oil revenues in diversification. All that oil revenue does for you is it gives you some financial leverage, okay, that help you to facilitate investment in diversification. Now, these other countries that have resources were able to do that successfully, but we're not as a country. So we will use oil income. And the implication of that is this. It simply means that when you use those resources inefficiently, you are depriving future generations of the benefits of that asset. Because for every barrel of oil that you took from the ground today, it takes billions of years of geological process to be able to restore them. So you have deprived them. In many cases, what you leave behind for them are, various, environmental, negative environmental, consequences. Malaysia and Indonesia invested heavily in transport and trade-related infrastructure. So Nigeria must, find a way, and it's not too late, that whatever is left of our resource, before energy transition take over, that we don't spend them on recurrent expenditure. And that point has been made. You may not like the World Bank or the IMF, but again, not just them, some of our people, that you should find a way of sterilizing oil revenue. Oil revenue should not be used to finance recurrent expenditure. Should not be used to finance overheads. They should be used to finance critical infrastructure, something that will be bequeathed to the future generations in a more developed economy. The second lesson we must learn from Malaysia and Indonesia is that we must prioritize agricultural transformation. Food security is essential for economic stability and growth. Indonesia achieved rice self-sufficiency. In spite of the rice pyramid we had and a lot of money we spent on rice, we still import rice. We still eat a lot of rice, imported rice in Nigeria. So we must find a way of achieving, on those critical commodities, we must find a way of achieving self-sufficiency. Also, Malaysia developed a global palm oil industry. And interestingly, which was the point I was making, Indonesia was able to link the education sector with the development of agriculture, in particular also palm oil. Okay? So there were researches that were money spent on it that, in such a way that the educational system is able to support research and the development of palm oil. And so, what we hear is that Malaysia came to Nigeria to take the palm front, okay, from us, the seed, and now they have outpaced us in terms of palm oil. And the money they are making for palm oil now is much more than is much higher than what we make from our crude oil. So we must find a way of ensuring that we prioritize agricultural transformation, prioritize education and human capital. A skilled workforce drives long-term development. We cannot overstate this. What is going to drive Nigeria's development is not going to be oil. It's not even going to be some of these, resources we are finding up in Nigeria now. It's simply going to be, how much investment we put in education, how much investment we put in health. Those are what will drive our development. Are the ministers around? Because I'm seeing this time so. So I'm just trying to ensure that I'm dragging it a little bit so that when they come, and So basically, like I said, this country spent almost over 20%, a lot of that on that. If I one of the points I'm recommending, the one my recommendation to just say it so that every time I leave, is that our NYC, those NYC things that we do, should be deliberate. People should go to agriculture, go to rural areas, agriculture and manufacturing. Every graduate must spend, must find a year, in those sectors in order to be able to, during the course of your 4 years, before you graduate, you must spend time in the farm, in the rural area or somewhere, or in the manufacturing industry to be part of the curriculum that we have. We must establish strong governance and ensure policy continuity. And thank God the representative of the speaker is here with us. One of the points I argue, our chairman said this, is that we should ensure that one will legislate our development plan. And no government should be able to change it without a third majority in the National Assembly. So that government are committed to a long-term process. You don't come and start this all over yourself, that everything you must do your own new roads, you must, without completing existing roads, you must do everything anew. I think that would not bring us anywhere. Like I said, within 4 years, government is over. And therefore, you are not able to continue anything. So we must find a way by which we entrench long-term development growth, long-term plan in our policy. So there must be laws and institutions that limit, excessive discretion by political leaders. Again, we must empower states and regions. You find out that in Indonesia and Malaysia, there's a lot of decentralization. The regions and the states are enabled to do a whole lot of development of themselves without looking at the center. Resources were devolved down, and responsibilities were also devolved down. We have too much concentration in Nigeria, so we must find a way of changing that narratives. If I one of the points we made in our, I was part of those who did, this African growth plan, that how do we achieve 10% growth rate in African countries in the next 10 years? And one of the points we made is that we must find a way of linking the rural areas to the urban areas, developing our rural area because they are critical. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, because, to answer this question, let me just quickly answer this question, about whether is the $1 trillion economy feasible by 2030. We said here, achieving a $1 trillion GDP by 2030 is unrealistic under current economic conditions. The Nigerian GDP now is 254.80 billion. Now, will be, at the end of this year, it will be $254 billion. Reaching a $1 trillion economy in 5 years will require an unprecedented 31% annual growth rate. We must be growing 31% annually for the next 5 years. No country in the history of the world has ever done that. And then we also have our own constraints: low capital efficiency, insufficient savings to drive that growth. So, ladies and gentlemen, even if we do another plan, 2026 to 2030, that says we'll achieve $1 trillion, it is not feasible. So, to do that, conservatively, we need between 8 to 12 years to move Nigeria's GDP from the current level of current GDP rate to $1 trillion, rather than what is done here. We did some analysis, but but the conclusion is that it will take another 8 to 12 years to do that, to achieve that. So, in conclusion, let me just say that what is the element of a strategy for development? We must mobilize savings and improve capital efficiency, agricultural revolution to achieve food security, export-oriented manufacturing with special economic zones. We must address the vast inequality in Nigeria. We need a developmental state, we need a strong state, and we need development planning. And we must stress governance and institutions. So in conclusion, the experience of our comparator countries reinforces a clear message. Growth is a long-term process that requires moving beyond primary industries, continually building productive capacity, and inclusively sharing the gains. Nigerian growth stems from policy failures. Nigeria's growth tragedy stems from policy failures, weak institutions, and a lack of long-term visions. While Indonesia and Malaysia transformed through strategic industrialization, human capital investment, and institutional reform, Nigeria remains trapped in rent-seeking and short-termisms. The path for redemption requires both consider reforms, not just in the economy, but also political and institutional. If Nigeria wants to change from its pattern, it must adopt evidence-based policy that can still reclaim its place as Africa's economic power base. Thank you very much.
Please, can we give him another big round of applause? It's already past almost to 2 o'clock, so we need to go for lunch. And would you call it a tea break in the afternoon? I don't think so. I think we should go for that and come back for the fire chats, yeah? I want to say thank you all very much for being a wonderful audience and expect to have you here. Just hold on a moment.
All right, let's just quickly announce where we would take this break, whatever it is now, whether it's tea or lunch break, you know. But after that, we'll come back for the fireside chat. For the African Development Bank Institute, as well as the fellows and the council members, the tea break will be happening at the restaurant. The council members, fellows, and the African Development Institute. Then the others would be, of course, there are points, there are tea break points within this facility. Then we can take our tea break out there. Thank you very much. And the tea break will just be for a few minutes, 20 minutes max. Then we all come back here for the fireside chat. Thank you very much.